The NBA trade deadline is only a few weeks away, and as we get closer to that date, the New York Knicks trade plans start to get clearer. And according to Adrian Wojnarowski, he helps give us a major update on the New York Knicks, their plans for this trade season, and also what they're planning to do for this offseason. We're going to break down this massive report and so much more today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. Adrian Wojnarowski helps break down the New York Knicks trade plans. That's been the major question. The big question heading into this trade deadline is what the New York Knicks are going to do. What are their plans? What players are they going to target? We've obviously heard Dejounte Murray. We heard Malcolm Brogdon. We heard Scary Terry. We've heard Alec Burks. But who? Who are the New York Knicks actually going to target? Well, thanks to Adrian Wojnarowski, late last night, he released this bombshell of a report. Let's check it out right now. According to Woj, late last night, he reported the Knicks could make a deal in the short term, but don't want to compromise pursuit of a big summer star signing in this offseason. Woj continues by stating the following about the New York Knicks and their trade plans. The Knicks are looking at scoring help off the bench. They made their big trade with OG Anunoby. It has paid off. They want to keep themselves in position to do another big one for an all-star, an all-NBA level player that very likely would be this offseason. That player's not available now, but certainly players like Bruce Brown in Toronto now, Alec Burks, Jordan Clarkson in Utah. The Knicks have the assets. They have an expiring contract in Evan Fournier to be able to do a trade in the short term for some bench help going into the postseason without compromising themselves on going big game hunting in the offseason. They have a lot of picks and they have assets that they can use in trades. They can do something here at the deadline and not take themselves out of a bigger picture thing that they hope comes along for them. Probably more so in the offseason or maybe into next year. Shout out to Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN for giving us this great update on the New York Knicks and their current plans for this season and, of course, this offseason. Now it seems very clear, and I might have to wave the white flag here. I've wanted Dejounte Murray on this team for weeks. The Knicks have had exploratory talks with the Hawks trying to trade for Murray for weeks. But as I said earlier, as we get closer to this trade deadline and the Knicks do not make that other move that we think is another massive move, it lends to the belief, especially given the fact that now Woj has spoken on it, stating that the New York Knicks are likely going to make a smaller move at the deadline to help their bench and then make that big all-star-like move, all-star-like trade this offseason. A lot of reports have come out over the last few weeks indicating this exact same thing. But reports have also come out indicating that the New York Knicks are looking at and trying to target Dejounte Murray, who would fit the bill as an all-star, as a star, and somebody who would absolutely help the Knicks become contenders this season, next season, and they could potentially use Dejounte Murray as a trade piece in the future to potentially get that star or superstar player that they want anyways. So there's a lot of advantages going after Dejounte. However, if you've been reading recent reports, those reports at least indicate, as of right now, he might be bound for the Los Angeles Lakers. If that's the case, and now, given this Woj report here, clearly indicating that the Knicks want to get bench help now in the short term, make a deal now in the short term that helps them now and in the future, but also not sacrifice any of the assets that they've accumulated over the last few years and trade them away for a player right now. They still want to save those assets for that quote-unquote big star trade down the road. The problem is, I've heard that exact same story just phrased a little differently each and every offseason under Leon Rose. And the problem is, even though a star gets disgruntled, it doesn't mean he's going to want to play for the Knicks. It doesn't mean he's going to want to play for this franchise. And here's another thing. If that star gets disgruntled with his current franchise, do you think it can't happen with the new franchise that he goes to? Have you seen the James Harden situation? It could happen just like that. Who's to say it doesn't? We have to be careful and very clear here. And I think the New York Knicks have put more or less an unofficial statement out there, more or less stating that if you want to play for New York or you have a connection to the New York Knicks or the front office, the Knicks are likely going to go after you. Because more than opportunity in seizing it, the Knicks want to make sure they're making the right moves. And going after a player that doesn't want to be with the New York Knicks for the long term may not be the best move for the Knicks. And that's why they're being very selective with the players they want to add to this roster. However, they have basically been linked to everybody. Star player, all-star player, superstar player, and now a number of role player guards. Just like Adrian Wojnarowski just mentioned, Bruce Brown, Alec Burks, Jordan Clarkson. Let's break down a few of the names that he threw out there. Again, he mentioned that the Knicks do not want to compromise themselves or their assets later on down the line. They want to save them for a star or superstar trade in the future. So because of that, players, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, like Bruce Brown in Toronto, Alec Burks with the Pistons, and Utah's Jordan Clarkson are all players the New York Knicks are going to have a target on. Now, I like Clarkson. I think he fits this team well. I honestly think he fits any team well because of what he can do. Walking bucket, he's on a down year this year and still scoring, I believe, 17 to 18 points a game. After his recent injury, he's come alive. Recently dropped the triple-double, giving you double-doubles, giving you 30 points, maybe 7 rebounds, 6 assists. He is capable of doing all of that and more. And off your bench at that, I would love Clarkson. However, according to Ian Begley, Utah is seeking significant assets back in any Clarkson deal. And of course, you got to know who we're dealing with, Danny Ainge. So that asking price, after you understand the parties involved, is not surprising at all. But because of that, because his asking price is very high, I don't see the New York Knicks or Leon Rose targeting him. So now let's move on to the next name on this list, Bruce Brown. Now, Brown was recently traded to the Raptors in a deal that sent Siakam to the Indiana Pacers. And recently, Bruce Brown spoke out about potentially being traded to the Knicks, playing for Tom Thibodeau. And honestly, to me, if you watch the video we just dropped on this channel about it, if you haven't, you can watch it. It's in the channel section right now. If you watch that video, you will see that Bruce Brown sounded like he was campaigning to join the New York Knicks. So that potential connection that he has to the Knicks, to New York, to Tom Thibodeau could absolutely come into play. However, the price value for him is about 1 first-round pick and 1 young player, and likely somebody to match salary. So if that's the case, if you're giving up all those assets for a Bruce Brown, you might as well include another first-round pick and get a better player than Bruce Brown. Because I said it before, and I'll say it again. We have Josh Hart, who is basically a clone of Bruce Brown with less great shooting. That's it. We don't need another player like that on our bench. No knock against Bruce Brown. I actually like Bruce Brown and his game. I just don't think his game fits this New York Knicks team right now because we have Josh Hart. If we didn't have Hart, it would make sense. We have Hart. That's why it doesn't. Let him go to LA and let the Knicks go after Dejounte. Because for me, that makes sense for everybody. But alas, he isn't on this list. But a former Knick is Alec Burks. He is the last person mentioned here by Woj regarding a name the New York Knicks could potentially target and trade for before the trade deadline. I am not going to waste my breath on Alec Burks any longer. I've said it in a number of videos already, so I'll summarize it again really quickly. Had him here before. I have PTSD of him being here before. I don't want him here again. I don't care how cheap he is. I don't care if it costs me a couple of seconds. Let's explore each and every option that's better than all of the options that Woj just mentioned first. And then after we do that, we can then look at all of these other options. And if we can get them for a steal, then maybe you can convince me then. But while Dejounte Murray is still available, while a lot of these other players like Washington Wizards guard Tyus Jones, Daniel Gafford, while all of these players are still available and on the board, I am not entertaining and talking about these other players because there are better players available that I want to go ahead and get if I'm the New York Knicks. So that's what the focus should be right now, and that's where my focus is right now. I know the Lakers are in play for Dejounte Murray, but you know what? They still haven't traded for him. And last I checked, the New York Knicks are still interested in Dejounte Murray. So until that situation resolves itself, I'm going to keep an open mind and try to be a little bit more optimistic. Although I will admit it does not look good according to the latest reports. However, I haven't given up hope, and there's still a lot of other players the Knicks can target besides Alec Burks, Jordan Clarkson, and Bruce Brown. And I hope the Knicks look at those options first before going after any of these players. But it's going to be up to Leon Rose and the Knicks to see how desperate that they are moving into this trade deadline season. But honestly, 9-2 after OG Anunoby. Should they really be desperate? In my opinion, they have nothing to be desperate about. They look like one of the best teams after 2024 hit. And not only that, they have one of the best defenses since OG Anunoby came to this team. And that's one of the things you really wanted to see from this Knicks team. Not saying they weren't good defensively before the trade, but if you've been watching this team after the trade, their defense went from here to here. Off-screen type of defense. They are in sync. They are locked in. They are focused. And it's clear. Everybody on that Knicks team wants them to be a better defensive team because they're all giving the defensive effort. Even Randall at times, who gets criticized a lot for playing defense. Gotta say it again. This update from Adrian Wojnarowski really pops a bubble in everything I'm thinking about. Because honestly, even though Dejounte Murray is still available and on the table, hearing the report from Woj, which again states that the Knicks want to do a short-term deal not to compromise their pursuit of a big star in the summer. Once you hear that, you know for a fact, you already know what the New York Knicks plans are. They're going to go after bench help that helps them now and potentially who they think can help them in the future, and the future being that superstar or all-star that they can trade for this offseason. So if you were hoping for Dejounte Murray like I am, and I still am, because as long as there are reports out there that the Knicks are interested in trying to go after him, I'm still going to have a little bit of hope and a little bit of optimism. But I cannot deny that after this Adrian Wojnarowski report, it seems very unlikely that the Knicks are going to land Dejounte, and it seems more likely that the Knicks might land somebody of Brogdon's level, an elite type of role player that can come off of your bench, stabilize the offense, and help Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle get legitimate rest while the reserves are on the floor and not have to play one of them while the reserves are out there. That's what the New York Knicks want to do right now. That's what Woj has stated, and I take what Woj states very, very seriously. Obviously, nobody can be 100%, but Woj has been spot on more times than he's been wrong. So everything he says, I have to give it credibility and believe it to some degree. So because of that, I see the New York Knicks going after that star that we all want to see them get this offseason and making a small, slightly impactful, but necessary move at the trade deadline to help this Knicks team get better in the Eastern Conference and hopefully a player that can help them make more noise once they get to the postseason. Because I think we all believe this Knicks team that we're watching right now makes us believe anything is possible and that they can beat anyone. But what about you guys? What do you think about Adrian Wojnarowski's report here regarding the New York Knicks and their trade plans for this season and this next offseason? Let me know in the comments below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below, and of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.